The wild turkey is more than just a bird. It's a symbol of American history and one of the greatest conservation success stories of our time. Early on, the bird was hit with a double whammy as settlers destroyed turkey habitat to make a home for themselves, all the while killing turkeys for an easy meal. But after decades of exploitation, conservation groups finally stepped up to the plate to stop the wild turkey from being wiped out. Today, thanks to the National Wild Turkey Federation and several other conservation groups, more than 6 million turkeys trot across North America. But it's turkey hunters who are the real writers of the success story. Because if we didn't have an interest in chasing gobblers, there wouldn't be any gobblers to chase. It's our collective dollars and voice that allow wild turkeys to thrive. When it comes to turkey hunting, the Grand Slam is one of the most coveted achievements. For a hunter to claim a Grand Slam, you need to kill 4 of the most prominent subspecies in the United States. The Osceola, the Rio Grande, the Merriams, and the Eastern. On December 7, 1941, an American pilot by the name of Dave Harbour scrambled to get airborne as the Japanese struck a U.S. naval base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. His plane was shot down, but he survived and lived to fight through World War II. Outside of the cockpit, Dave Harbour was a sportsman and avid turkey hunter, so much that he went on to become a noted outdoor author and wild turkey expert. Most turkey hunting history buffs would argue that it was his 1983 book, Advanced Wild Turkey Hunting and World Records, where the Grand Slam was first noted, explained, and popularized. Since then, more than 1,000 Grand Slams have been registered with the NWTF, and each year, turkey hunters travel the country in pursuit of the slam. Like any hunting adventure, the Grand Slam isn't just about tagging out. It's about the sights, the sounds, and the people you meet along the way. It's about the experience. My name's Josh Dahlke, I'm a turkey hunter, and this is the story of my Grand Slam pursuit. For my first stop, I headed down to Florida to try to collect an Osceola. I met up with the guys from Hornady Ammunition in Mossy Oak, and after a short meet and greet, we headed out to the shooting range to see if our turkey guns were performing on paper. The first morning I met up with my guide, Jimmy Hook, and we hit it off right away, so we had plenty to talk about in the ground blind that morning. Thankfully, because the wind was howling, birds weren't talking, and if they were, we couldn't hear them. So Jimmy was adamant to get me on some birds. First spot wasn't producing, and we moved on to the next one down the road, a little bit more off the beaten path.
The other day they came from this gate. They were coming to this tree. I was sitting on the point straight across where that big black cow is, and they were coming to this tree. The jakes were in the decoys. The jakes ran them off, and they roosted way over that way. This is a great place to, if they come to this tree, we're going to be in good shape. If they don't, we're done.
That was the first time I'd actually seen an Osceola wild turkey, and I was just in awe. It's still difficult for me to picture wild turkeys and palm trees in the same setting, but that's just the game down in Florida. Unfortunately, that bird wandered off, never came in close, put on a good show for us for a while, but we couldn't seal the deal even after trying to sneak on him. Later though, right before sunset, we saw 2 toms and a jake going to roost, so we know exactly where we wanted to go the next morning.
guys are going to do this, Josh. I've been doing this now to us for 3 years. Just won't cooperate for a call or for a decoy or anything, man. It's not going to happen.
We were up against a burn pile, old cabbage palms, and Josh says to me, "Hey, when they get behind that burn pile across the pasture, you think I can try running across the pasture?" I said, "Josh, it's a long shot, but I said it's all we got with these two birds." So I stayed back at the other burn pile. Josh ran across, and he was able to get to this other burn pile without the birds seeing him. And next thing I know, Josh is shooting. I saw one bird fly, and the other one didn't. So I saw Josh running. So I knew we were in good shape.
It was just a little bit of a nail biter, but I fully expected that the guys from Osceola Outdoors were going to help me get it done. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Jimmy Hook, on the other hand, was a little bit shocked when I sprinted across the pasture after those two birds, but I did. And because of it, I was rewarded with a sweet Osceola longbeard. Next, I was off to the hill country of Texas to hunt with Josh Grossenbacher of Zink Calls and Brent Lawrence from the National Wild Turkey Federation. We stayed at a beautiful resort called Canyon of the Eagles, right in the heart of hill country, but that's not where we were going to spend most of our time because we were down there to try and tag a Rio Grande gobbler at Reveille Peak Ranch. Reveille is owned and operated by Vol and Christie Montgomery. Now they manage this as a multi-use recreational area, 1,300 acres, Burnet, Texas, blue bonnet capital of the world, and some of the most breathtaking scenery you've ever seen. After a real nice tour of the ranch, we all went back, had a couple beverages and relaxed, and made a plan for the following morning.
We're down here in the hill country of South Texas, hunting with Brent Lawrence, the NWTF, and Brent was smart enough to leave all the windows open with the lights on in the car this morning. But luckily for us, the bugs aren't bad down here, so we're gonna give these Rio Grandes down here in Texas a try this morning and stick with us. Wish us luck.
We were still wiping sleep out of our eyes when we got out there, wondering if the gobblers were even awake yet, but as soon as we started nailing that owl call, we got some responses. Now, I was teamed up with Josh Grossenbacher. He builds calls for a living for Zink, and aside from that, that man can run a turkey call like nobody's business. We worked that gobbler for at least a half hour and we never saw him. Of course, he was on the other side of the fence on the neighbor's property and we couldn't really close the distance. But with an uncooperative gobbler and a lake full of bass near, we decided to go spend the afternoon and do some fishing. Luckily for us, Jim Tutt, professional bass fisherman, was in town and he helped us get on about 50 bass in 1 or 2 hours. It was just ridiculous. After a crazy afternoon out on the water, we decided to go out and get back after them Rios. Now, we covered a ton of ground, almost every square inch of this ranch it seemed like, and nothing was talking back to us. But finally, gobbler hit us back and we were more than happy to continue the conversation.
Yes.
Spitting and drumming. Now, if you're a turkey hunter, you know that there's nothing quite like that sound coming out of a gobbler. And that's exactly what that Tom did on his way into our setup. After the first few gobbles when we fired him up, he never made another sound other than that unbelievable spit and drum that just hits you right here. We busted our butts to try to get Josh a bird before the last day, but the going was tough. A drought the previous couple years down there really took a toll on turkey populations, so it made it a little bit challenging to get on 2- and 3-year-old gobblers. However, right on the last day, we riled up a bunch of gobblers on the other side of the fence from us, and they put on a gobble fest like we'll never forget. The third leg of my Grand Slam pursuit brought me to northwestern Nebraska's One Lazy J Ranch. Now this is Merriam's country, pure-blooded Merriam's country. I headed there with 5 friends from the National Wild Turkey Federation, and we didn't waste any time. Got out there, patterned our guns, and immediately got down to some scouting. We're out here first night, Crawford, Nebraska, One Lazy J Ranch. We couldn't even step out of the truck without stepping on turkey tracks. We got strutter wing drag marks all over this road. This place is unbelievable. It's going to be a great, great week. That evening, had a great dinner with the ranch owner, Tony Johnson, and it didn't take long to realize that our prospects of coming home with some Merriams were looking pretty good. Our crew had a ton of action on the first morning, but none of us were able to seal the deal. So took a little break and got back out later that afternoon, and still no cigar, but plenty of turkeys around to be had. So next morning got out there, nasty cold pouring rain, toughed it out with my buddy Brannigan, and he was able to take his first ever wild turkey. It rained on and off most of the day, so we decided to set up a ground blind. Turkeys seem to be spending a lot of time out in the wide open as well, so we were thinking that'd be a perfect setup to try to get me on a turkey.
The weather finally cleared off. Now we're just setting up in this double bowl T3 blind out in the middle of this field. It's a known travel path for these birds. Got a couple Avian X hen decoys out, hoping that we'll be able to get some birds coming to and from a food source or just en route to their roost from their normal daily travel activities. So we'll see how it plays out. We're gonna sit out here the rest of the evening until sundown, and worst case scenario, maybe we'll hear some gobbles and get some birds roosted for the morning. So got some optimism, but it's been a tough day. Put the camera down. We had a strutter come in, and he would not seal the deal. He was strutting and gobbling, hung up at 65 to 70 yards. Next thing you know, a flock comes over the hill in the distance. Run up to the strutter. They all come walking by the blind. My friend opens the side window for me in the nick of time as the last strutter's about to go below a hill where I wouldn't have been able to see him anymore. And I shoot him while he's still in strut, so let's go see what he looks like. This is what we came for, and this is absolutely spectacular. It doesn't get much better than that.
This turned out to be one of those hunts where you couldn't help but think that the turkey gods were giving you a little bit of love for all the times that you've had to deal with gobblers that just would not cooperate. Day 3, we all had Merriams on the ground. I strongly encourage you to consider joining a local chapter of the NWTF in your state. All you have to do is go to NWTF.org, where you'll find a state-by-state listing of all the local chapters throughout the country. You're going to meet some great people, have an awesome time, contribute to wildlife conservation, and definitely have plenty of time to play too. Like most goals in life, oftentimes it's that last step trying to achieve it that becomes the most difficult. And that's exactly what happened to me with my Eastern. I took an annual trip down to southwest Wisconsin, familiar stomping ground, a place where I've killed a pile of turkeys over the years. Now, I hunted hard for 3 days and finally had my opportunity on the final morning, had a bird roosted, and he just would not come into my calls. So what did I do? I chased him after he flew down, and next thing you know, there he is at 20 yards, standing there looking right at me as I come over a rise, and I fail. I miss the shot. I was devastated. Here I was on the very final leg of my Grand Slam, and all I had to do was shoot the one bird that I was most familiar with, and I blew it. So instantly I realized, I'm not gonna give up on this deal, and I need to find somewhere else to hunt. So my uncle and hunting mentor actually made a phone call to one of his buddies who was kind enough to let me come down and hunt his property south of the Twin Cities one morning before work. I had never met the guy before, and here we are at 4 in the morning, full camo, getting in a bad boy buggy and heading out to his amazing property. Well, this is it, my final stop for a single season Grand Slam, and it was a tremendous hunt. Called in 3 toms today from across the field. They came in hot, gobbling, just a tremendous hunt. I was very, very lucky to come out here. Rob Totenhagen allowed me to come down just south of the Twin Cities to his fantastic 80-acre property here. This place is paradise for game. Bottom line though, he let me come out here out of the kindness of his heart to finish my single season Grand Slam, and I'm absolutely thrilled.